Excitement can quickly turn to terror, and the joy of an amusement park ride can transform into a nightmare. In this video, we're telling 5 stories of tragic deaths on amusement park rides. Join us as we uncover how these lives were forever altered. October 25, 2016 was supposed to be a day of fun and relaxation at Dreamworld, Australia's largest theme park. But when one of the park's most beloved attractions malfunctioned, the lives of those involved were forever changed. It was a moment that revealed a profound failure in safety and left the entire nation grappling with grief and disbelief. Located on Queensland's Gold Coast, Dreamworld is known for its variety of rides and attractions, welcoming thousands of visitors each year. Among its most popular was the Thunder River Rapids ride. This water-based ride, located in the town of Gold Rush section of the park, was designed to simulate whitewater rafting. Guests would board circular rafts and float down a man-made river, navigating rapids at a speed of up to 28 miles per hour. The Thunder River Rapids ride had been a highlight of the park for 30 years. But everything changed that fateful day. Cracks had begun to show between the surface, but they were ignored. Over the years, the ride had undergone little in the way of serious safety upgrades. Dreamworld, a symbol of family fun and adventure, failed to maintain the safety measures that could have averted what was about to unfold. On October 25, 2016, a malfunction in the ride's water pump caused the water levels to drop rapidly. As a result, an empty raft became stranded on the ride's conveyor system, unable to make it back to the unloading area. A second raft was approaching, this time with 6 passengers aboard. Kate Goodchild, Luke Dorset, Rusbe Aragi, Cindy Lowe, as well as 2 children aged 10 and 12, were all enjoying the ride, unaware of the impending danger. And then all of a sudden, their raft collided violently with the first. Both rafts were lifted upward by the conveyor, causing the second raft to flip into a vertical position. It was mayhem. As the raft flipped, Kate Goodchild, Luke Dorset, Rusbe Aragi, and Cindy Lowe were either ejected or caught by the machinery below. When the raft inverted, 35-year-old Luke Dorset put his arm across his niece and pushed her to the side. This caused Luke's niece to jump off the raft, which essentially saved her life. Luke Dorset died a hero. The other child miraculously survived too, but the 4 adults were not as fortunate. The conveyor system crushed Kate, Luke, Rusbe, and Cindy almost instantly. As the tragedy unfolded, several other guests sprang into action, trying to save the 4 adults inside the raft. Emergency services also arrived swiftly, but nothing could be done. The victims had suffered catastrophic crush and compression injuries. More than 7 paramedic crews responded to the scene along with police and firefighters, but recovery efforts quickly turned to retrieving the bodies. The damage was too severe. The park's staff, witnesses, and families of the victims were left in shock. Some of them have never recovered from the gruesome sight of that day. Dreamworld was closed indefinitely as the ride became the focus of an investigation. Within days, police had declared the Thunder River Rapids ride a crime scene, and Dreamworld faced intense public scrutiny. The investigation revealed that Dreamworld had long ignored serious safety risks. A coroner's report released years later described the park's safety measures as irresponsible, dangerous, and inadequate. It concluded that the deaths were preventable and highlighted Dreamworld's failure to assess the safety of the ride in over 3 decades of operation. The park's systems, once regarded as modern, were exposed as rudimentary and flawed. Dreamworld's parent company, Ardent Leisure, pleaded guilty to multiple breaches of safety laws and was fined $3.6 million in 2020. The fine, while the largest in Queensland's history for such an incident, did little to alleviate the pain of those affected. Settlements were reached with the victims' families, and Dreamworld faced additional financial losses, including a class action lawsuit from shareholders who claimed the company misled them about safety practices. The Thunder River Rapids ride was permanently closed, and the site was eventually demolished. In its place now stands a memorial garden, a somber reminder of the lives lost and the cost of negligence. Families of the victims, still grappling with their grief, expressed both anger and sorrow in court, knowing their loved ones' deaths were avoidable. In July 1974, Deborah Gale Stone was an 18-year-old with big plans for the future. In order to make them possible and begin her adult life, Deborah got a job at the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. She wanted to raise a little bit of money before starting her freshman college year. But what should have been a summer of excitement and dreams for the ambitious teenager quickly turned into a night of unspeakable horror, marking a chilling moment in Disneyland's history. Deborah Gale Stone, the eldest daughter of Bill and Marilyn Stone, had a bright future ahead of her. Born on June 18, 1956, in Santa Ana, California, she was known for her beauty, intelligence, and athleticism. Deborah had just graduated from Santa Ana High School with top honors, earning the prestigious Principal's Award. Her achievements extended beyond academics. She excelled in track and swimming, marking her as a standout among her peers. As an incoming freshman at Iowa State University, Deborah was eager to pursue her higher education and had taken up a summer job at Disneyland to help pay for her tuition. She worked as a hostess at the park's newest attraction, America Sings, an animatronic show that featured American musical history through a variety of singing animals. The attraction involved a rotating theater design, where 6 distinct stages revolved counterclockwise around a fixed center, offering continuous performances for guests. On July 8, 1974, Deborah Stone was working the evening shift as a hostess. Deborah had reasons to be happy, just hours before she had called her parents overjoyed, telling them she was in love and ready to get engaged. It was about 10:37 p.m. when the show ended. The theater's 6 auditoriums were in the process of shifting into position for the next act. It was during this brief interval, which lasted only 45 seconds, that Deborah became trapped. Somehow she either fell or stepped too close to the narrow channel separating the stationary wall and the rotating section of the theater. Whether she lost her balance, attempted to speak with a fellow cast member, or simply made a tragic misstep remains unclear. What is certain is that the consequences were devastating. As the rotating wall moved, Deborah was crushed between the 2 sections. Her screams pierced the air, but many audience members believed it was part of the performance. However, one witness, a U.S. Air Force member seated in the adjacent theater, realized something was horribly wrong and alerted park staff. By the time they arrived, it was too late. Deborah had succumbed to her injuries, her body trapped and crushed between the unforgiving walls. Disneyland immediately closed America Sings for 3 days to investigate the incident and implement new safety measures. The area where Deborah had been working remained closed for an entire year. When the ride reopened, it featured significant safety modifications. Warning lights were installed to alert operators if someone got too close to the moving walls, and breakaway panels were added to allow for a potential escape should a similar accident occur. The ride continued to operate until it was permanently shut down in 1988. Deborah's parents, shattered by the loss of their daughter, filed a lawsuit against Disneyland, resulting in a modest settlement. Though financial compensation could never mend the grief of losing a child, the settlement marked an acknowledgement of responsibility on the part of the theme park. In the years that followed, the tragedy of Deborah Gale Stone's death lingered in the minds of those who remembered that fateful night. After Deborah's death, there have been urban legends and alleged reports of a voice warning, "Be careful," at the site of the tragedy. Whether these accounts are true or not, Deborah's untimely passing brought to light the dangers inherent in even the most joyful of places, a reminder that amusement parks, for all their magic, are not without risk. August 22, 1999, was just the latest of 12-year-old Joshua Smurfette's visits at Paramount's Great America in Santa Clara, California. However, that August day turned into an unimaginable nightmare for Joshua and his family when a horrifying accident took place on one of the park's most thrilling rides. At 12 years old, Joshua Smurfette was a boy full of life. Born with developmental disabilities, he faced challenges, but remained an active, joyful child. His love for sports shone through in his participation in a special Little League team for children with disabilities. To his friends and family, Joshua was the most lovable little kid. Joshua and his family lived in Sunnyvale, California. As such, his trips to Great America were somewhat of a family tradition. They had been there many times before, enjoying the park's attractions. California's Great America had been an iconic amusement park for decades. Spanning 112 acres in the heart of Silicon Valley, the park had undergone multiple ownership changes since its opening. By the 1990s, it was owned by Paramount Parks and boasted several thrilling rides, including the Drop Zone Stunt Tower, a freefall ride. The drop zone stood at an imposing height of 227 feet. Riders, strapped into seats with steel harnesses, would be lifted to the top before plummeting straight down at speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour. The adrenaline rush made it a popular choice for thrill seekers, drawing in nearly 2 million riders annually. But what was supposed to be a ride of exhilaration turned into a devastating nightmare for Joshua and his family. Joshua loved the drop zone stunt tower. His mother Tammy usually rode with him on the drop zone, but things were different on that warm August afternoon. Since some cars were out of service, Tammy decided to watch from below and let a family friend escort Josh and 2 friends on the ride. Joshua was strapped into his seat alongside other riders, seemingly ready for the experience. Things went all right at first, but when the ride began its descent, something truly horrifying happened. According to several witnesses, somewhere between 50 and 100 feet above the ground, Joshua's harness seemed to pop open, causing the boy to slip out of his seat. He struggled to stay inside, but within seconds, he was thrown feet first out of the ride, tumbling cartwheel style toward the ground. Joshua struck the concrete below head first and died instantly. The immediate aftermath was chaotic and heartbreaking. His mother, who had been watching, ran toward the gate in a desperate attempt to reach her son. She was standing mere feet away from the place where he struck the ground. She saw everything, his blood, his cracked skull. Witnesses at the scene were stunned, with some kneeling to pray for Joshua. But the reality was clear. There was nothing anyone could do. The 12-year-old had been killed on impact. Investigators quickly launched a probe into what had gone wrong on the drop zone ride. Early reports indicated that the harness, which was electronically controlled, should not have been able to open during the ride's descent. The ride's manufacturer, Intamin AG, and Great America officials expressed skepticism that such an accident could occur, claiming that the system was fail-safe. Yet witness testimonies suggested otherwise. Some claimed the harness had been improperly secured or not checked by staff before the ride began. Others believed that the ride's magnetic braking system may have contributed to the harness popping open. The investigation took weeks, and while criminal negligence was ruled out, the exact cause remained unclear. Joshua's death was not the first fatality at Great America, but it was one that sparked widespread concern. His family filed lawsuits against the park and the ride's manufacturer, accusing them of negligence and arguing that the ride's design was inherently unsafe. According to the lawsuit, at the moment of the incident, the ride was operated by 4 unsupervised teenagers. Although Great America later added a safety belt to the shoulder harness, the measures came too late for Joshua. His mother's grief was compounded by the fact that she had witnessed her son's death firsthand, a trauma she described as something she could never escape from, whether in waking life or in her dreams. The case was eventually settled. The family has since advocated for stricter safety measures on freefall rides, emphasizing the need for additional restraints. It was September 5, 2003, and visiting Disneyland was a last-minute decision for 22-year-old Marcelo Torres and his friend Vicente Gutierrez. But now here they were, ready for a day of fun filled with thrilling rides. They had no idea that before the day ended, Marcelo would be dead. In 2003, Marcelo Torres was a young graphic artist from Gardena, California, who aspired to become an animator. At 22, Marcelo had a bright future ahead of him, working alongside his best friend, Vicente Gutierrez, on various graphic design projects. The 2 friends, joined by others, decided to spend the day at Disneyland, taking a break from their busy schedules. This spontaneous trip to the famous theme park would mark a tragic and unforeseen turn in their lives. That day, the friends decided to embark on Disneyland's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, one of the park's beloved attractions. Disneyland's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad was considered a signature attraction, drawing in countless visitors with its thrilling and immersive experience. The ride, designed to simulate an out-of-control mine train, takes passengers through a series of tunnels, sharp turns, and descents against a backdrop of a rugged Old West landscape. The ride, located in 4 Disney theme parks around the world, had long been a favorite among guests for its blend of speed and scenic adventure. But for all its excitement, the underlying mechanics of the ride relied on meticulous maintenance, something that failed in the days leading up to Marcelo's visit to the park. On the day of the incident, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad had undergone routine maintenance just 3 days prior. A third train, which had been out of service for maintenance, was added to the ride shortly before the accident occurred. However, critical steps had been overlooked during the maintenance procedure. Key fasteners on the left side of the locomotive's upstop wheel, responsible for keeping the train on its tracks, had not been properly tightened, resulting in a severe mechanical failure. As Marcelo and other riders boarded the train for what they believed would be a fun adventure through the faux desert landscape, there were already signs of trouble. Ride operators had noticed unusual clanking noises coming from the train, but no immediate action was taken. The train continued to run through 12 more cycles despite these noises, and the decision was made to remove the train from service after one more run, the 13th ride. But the 13th ride never finished. As the train entered a dark tunnel, the fasteners on the locomotive came loose. The left wheel assembly fell off, and the floating axle jammed against a brake section. The locomotive became airborne, slamming into the tunnel's ceiling before crashing down onto the first passenger car, where Marcelo Torres was seated. The force of the crash caused the lead car to collide with the undercarriage of the locomotive, and Marcelo was crushed in the impact. He suffered severe blunt force trauma to the chest, fracturing his ribs and leading to catastrophic internal bleeding. Despite immediate efforts by emergency responders, Marcelo's injuries proved fatal. 10 other passengers on the ride sustained injuries ranging from minor to serious. Vicente Gutierrez, Marcelo's close friend, suffered facial cuts, broken ribs, and other injuries. In the aftermath, an investigation by the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health revealed a troubling pattern of negligence. The mechanical failure was directly linked to improper maintenance. Workers had failed to secure key components of the ride, and management did not follow safety protocols. Despite ride operators hearing strange noises for over 30 minutes before the crash, the ride continued operating until disaster struck. These oversights culminated in the fatal accident that claimed Marcelo Torres's life. Some attributed the derailment to a cost-cutting maintenance culture introduced by Disneyland in the late 1990s. Disney eventually accepted responsibility for the incident. A lawsuit brought by Marcelo's family was settled for an undisclosed sum, with part of the settlement dedicated to a scholarship fund in Marcelo's memory. His parents, devastated by the loss of their son, expressed that no amount of money could replace his life, but they hoped that their efforts would prevent such tragedies in the future. July 14, 2019 was an ordinary Sunday at Amrapali Amusement Park near Kankaria Lake in Ahmedabad, India. But as park goers enjoyed one of the rides, disaster struck. The Discovery Ride, a giant pendulum that swings riders high into the air, had been operating normally just minutes before the accident, with 31 passengers on board. As the pendulum reached its peak, a critical component of the ride structure, a steel pipe, broke, causing the ride to split in half while it was still airborne. The breakage sent one arm of the ride, carrying several passengers, crashing into a metal bar below, compounding the severity of the impact. The force of the collision was devastating, instantly killing 2 young riders, Manali Rajvati, 24, and Mohammad Zaid Momin, 22. Others were left screaming for help as park employees and rescue teams scrambled to respond. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, transporting 29 injured victims to the hospital. 3 were reported to be in critical condition, their injuries ranging from broken bones to severe head trauma. The victims, mostly young adults between 16 and 26, had been enjoying what was meant to be an exhilarating ride but were now fighting for their lives. Local officials quickly launched an investigation into the accident. Preliminary reports indicated that the load-bearing cable of the ride had snapped mid-swing, a critical failure in the mechanism. Authorities detained several employees associated with the ride's operation for questioning, as the cause of the breakage remained unclear. Video footage from the scene, captured by horrified witnesses, showed the moments leading up to the crash and the chaotic aftermath, as parkgoers ran toward the fallen ride, desperate to assist the injured. The park's management, owned by Ghanshyam Patel and his son Bhavesh Patel, expressed shock at the incident, maintaining that all maintenance certifications and safety inspections were in order. They could not explain how such a failure occurred, given that the ride had been inspected and cleared by authorities in the weeks leading up to the accident. Nevertheless, the father-son duo promised full cooperation with investigators while grieving families and injured victims awaited answers. This tragedy shows that large mechanical rides can always be dangerous. They are designed to offer fun and adventure, but accidents and negligence alike can cause tragedies.